I'm imploring all of you around the world who still think your governments are looking out for your best interest. At no point in history have the people forcing others into compliance been the good guys. The welfare of humanity has always been the alibi of tyrants. Do you not realize that this vaccine does not protect you from COVID? It does, however, protect you from governmental oppression. For now, that is. But don't think for even a second that this is not going to change tomorrow.
Chief here, and I have another thought. Today, I was thinking about the elite, and not like, elite clothing line from some sports apparel company or, elite, sports is really when I think about elite. Not talking about sports. I may be talking about some of the athletes though, but what I'm really talking about is the elite, the so-called elite, who are governing this society. And what made me think about this was I was recently watching the film Rope directed by Alfred Hitchcock, which is based upon Leopold and Loeb, a case from the early 20th century about these two University of Chicago students who killed a young 14-year-old boy, Bobby Franks, a murder that they planned for months. But these two kids thought that they were elite because of their high IQs, and they were like, if you read the case, they were pretty accomplished for their age. They were only like 19 and 20 respectively, and one that was like almost done with graduate school, law students. So they were pretty intelligent guys, I guess, if in the context of our society, we would say. But it seems like back in the early 19th or 20th century, a lot of kids were graduating high school and getting into college early. Like, Martin Luther King or something is who pops up at the top of my head, who graduated high school early and then went on to college pretty early. But the film Rope, which is a fantastic film. I read a couple reviews by like Roger Ebert, and then Inarritu, the guy who directed, Amores Perros, I think he did that, 21 Grams, and Bird, and what's that shit? The Birdman, I don't know, the fucking movie with Michael Keaton, when it's supposed to look like one continuous shot. Rope is filmed the same way. Inarritu said he didn't like the movie, and so did Ebert. But I thought the movie was fantastic, and one of their biggest takeaways, or something that they disliked the most from the movie, was the fact that you didn't get the emotion. There wasn't enough close-ups, and you couldn't get the gravity of the scene, or of some of the characters' reactions, especially to the the events that were going on in the movie. But one of the scenes that I thought was great was when Rupert, played by Jimmy Stewart, was talking to Philip, who was at the piano, and Rupert just had a natural suspicion the whole film, and he was gradually putting things together that would make it seem like, that would show that Philip and Brandon killed one of their classmates or one of their cohorts or companions. And there were two homosexuals in real life too. They're homosexuals. Just thought I'd throw that out there for the identitarians. Like one scene, they're at the piano, and then Rupert was just questioning Philip, and Philip was just the nervous one. There's always one guy who, can't really take the killing, and he's racked with guilt. So he can't really, hide his suspicion. Like, he's being very, he's behaving suspiciously, and Rupert picked up on it easily. He's like jumpy, and he's getting wasted. He's getting like super wasted because they just killed the dude, and he's hiding in and they dumped his body in the trunk that they used for the table, the buffet table. I thought the movie was fantastic. But what made me think about that was the end of the film. there was one part in the middle of the film where they talked about how there are two castes of society, and that the elite shouldn't have to care about what happens to the underclass. But I want to read from the script. I downloaded the script, and I'm going to read the part that really made me think about this video and how I think it'll enlighten people who listen to this to you know, my further thought processes on this on the elite, so-called elite of this global society. So this is when Rupert has suspicion. Rupert knows that something bad happens because Brandon and Philip are trying to divert people's attention away from the chest, even though you know, their hubris and their narcissism actually wanted people to draw. They low-key wanted people to be drawn their attention to the chest because they thought that they were so intellectual that people would you know, it's kind of like you know, hiding things in plain sight. That's what it is too. Like they're hiding the body in plain sight. You know, but Rupert becomes naturally suspicious, and he wants to open the chest, and he does open the chest, and he finds their classmate's body in the chest. And this is what made me like think about this. And it says, where is it at? Quickly, he slams the lid down and moves from the chest as though to get away from the indecency. Rupert, Brandon. Brandon, Rupert, Rupert. I couldn't really believe it was true. Brandon, Rupert, please. Rupert, please. What? Brandon. Listen to me, Rupert. Please listen. Please let me explain. Rupert, explain. Do you think you can explain that? Brandon, yes, to you I can, because you'll understand. Rupert, I'll understand. What makes... Brandon, Rupert, remember the discussion we had before with Mr. Kentley? Rupert, yes. Brandon, remember we said the lives of inferior beings are unimportant? Brandon, remember we said we've always said, you and I, that moral concepts of good and evil and right and wrong don't hold for the intellectually superior. Remember, Rupert? Rupert, yes, I remember. Brandon, well, that's all we've done, Rupert. That's all Philip and I have done. He and I have lived what you and I have taught. I know you'd understand because you have to. Don't you see? You have to. Rupert stares at him, then slowly sits down. There is a long pause. Rupert, you have thrown my words in my face, Brandon. You were right to. If nothing else, a man should stand by his words. But you have thrown the sound of reasoning at me, not reason itself. You have given my words a meaning I had never dreamed of. You have tried to twist them into a cold, logical excuse for your ugly murder. They never were that, Brandon, and you can't make them that. There must have been something deep in you from the very first to let you do this thing. But there has always been something deep in me that could never let me do it or be party to it now. There's a lot of fucking typos in the script because they had to do it with a typewriter, so it's, you know, it is what it is. Brandon, what do you moan? Rupert, until ho... Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's direction. I mean, tonight, you have made me ashamed of every concept I've ever had of superior or inferior beings. But I thank you for that shame, because now I know the truth. And though truth is that humanity cannot be divided into categories to suit our own words. We are such of us a human being, Brandon, with the right to live and work and think as individuals, yes, but with an obligation to the society we live in. By what right do you dare say there is a superior few to which you belong? By what right did you dare decide that, boy? Did you decide that boy was inferior and could therefore be killed? Did you think you were God, Brandon? Is that what you thought when you choked the life from him? Is that what you thought when you served food from his grave? I don't know what you thought you were doing or what you are, but I do know what you've done. You've murdered. You've strangled a fellow human being who could live and laugh and love as you never could and never will. I think that like describes how the elite are thinking today. And I also think that what Brandon was alluding to was that Nietzsche, younger fucker concept, niggas, that motherfucker's name, concept of the Ubermensch or the Superman from Thus Spoke man, see, I suck at pronouncing shit. You guys know that. Where he speaks about that a man can pick up a morality from the environment, and that Superman can use that morality to influence society based upon the love for the environment, and the artist is the superior being. It's similar to William Blake. I'm gonna read this part from William Blake. Because I've been studying this and I've been looking to a lot of different people to study. So I'll go backwards, not in chronological order. So this is from William Blake's poem, There Is No Natural Religion. The argument: man has no notion of moral fitness but from education, just like these motherfuckers thought they were superior because of their education. Naturally, he is only a natural, but their education also from their environment, not necessarily formal, so-called formal education from some institution. Naturally, he is only a natural organ subject to sense. Man cannot naturally perceive, but through his natural or bodily organs. Man, by his reasoning power, can only compare and judge of what he has already perceived. From a perception of only three senses or three elements, none could deduce a fourth or fifth. None could have rather than natural or organic thoughts if he had none but organic perceptions. Man's desires are limited by his perceptions. None can desire what he has not perceived. The desires and perceptions of man, untaught by anything but organs of sense, must be limited to objects of sense. Conclusion: if it were not for the poetic or the prophetic character of the philosophic and experimental, would soon be at the ratio of all things, and stand still, unable to do other than repeat the same dull round over again. I think that explains Nietzsche's concept of the Superman and how he should perceive his environment, because that's about him destroying God, the Most High. Nietzsche puts it in the guise of destroying religion because he thinks that the morality that religion, was bringing to society was, obsolete. When actually the morality from religion is actually how we determine good in this world, and the whole Western society, Western civilization is built upon the morality, the Christian ethos, so-called. I just think that what the elite are doing in this world today is based upon these deontological arguments where they can formulate a morality because they necessarily think that God is obsolete, that they are gods, and that since they are the supermen who are going to be able to make this morality not based upon any moral good, because they don't believe in the goodness of the Most High or the scriptures, which are the basis of the morality in the Western civilization. And then for some reason we think that since we've been embracing all these stupid Nietzsche, like the Nazis, like Hitler and them embraced Nietzsche, and just like Nietzsche and the Ubermensch, like just like what they do with communism and all this shit. Well, they're not explaining his thought processes right. They're just not doing it right. You really can do. Shut the fuck up. Damn, I'm tired of these like fucking philosophical clowns who write these things in circles and think that they can fucking interpret something from it. Just like these critical theorists, these so-called elitists, because they graduated from these institutions like Loeb and Leopold, thinking that they're so hard greater because the institutions validated their intellect, or their intellects, their so-called validated intellectual superiority validates like their existence as an elite person. And it's just like the elites of this society, the billionaires, I think they're trillionaires. I think their money is astronomical that we can probably not even fathom how much fucking money they got. But it doesn't matter. They're making so much money. Like, what's 100 billion to 100 trillion in this world? They think that they have the duty to form the society, and us, the plebs, the low-level scumbags. That's what they think of us, even though they're the scum of the earth, the demons. Who are obviously possessed by century or eons of the battle between good and evil. Satan definitely has their souls, even though they don't believe in a soul. But actually, I think they do. They know it. That's why they're behaving this way, because they know that they necessarily have to attack the Most High and the scriptures, just like Nietzsche and all these other motherfuckers. And William Blake, thinking that, even though, like, when you read more Blake, I think he's more conflicted than a lot of these other motherfuckers. But they also, the reason why I went backwards and chronologically, because you can even go to Aristotle, Aristotelian I don't even want to say it, man. I suck at pronouncing shit. But Aristotle was also on that shit where he thought that our senses were the only perception we have, you know, and like, you know, I just want to read this one more thing, you know. I fuck that. I be watching all these motherfucking videos. They be reading from the mainstream media and all that stupid shit. Fuck that. I'm reading from real sources, from real great men in history. And William Blake too. Like I just love the romantics. But William Blake was one of those motherfuckers too, just like Van Gogh and all these others, and Kafka and even like a lot of these motherfuckers were you know, they didn't become anything till after their death. After they died, people started exalting their work. William Blake was not known for his art and his poetry when he was alive, sadly, you know, which happens way too much because, again, we live in a death cult society where we worship death. So when people die, that's when people start, you know, feeling that they should exalt these figures, you know, into almost deify these figures. But this is from On Heaven, from Aristotle, you know. The science which has to do with nature clearly concerns itself for the most part with bodies and magnitudes and their properties and movements, but also with the principles of this sort of substance, as many as they may be. For of things constituted by nature, some are bodies and magnitudes, some possess body and magnitude, and some are principles of things which possess these. Now the continuum is that which is divisible into parts always capable of subdivision, and a body is that which is every way divisible. A magnitude, if divisible one way, is a line, if two ways, a surface, and if three, a body. Beyond these, there is no other magnitude, because the three dimensions are all there is all that there are. And that which is divisible in three directions is divisible in all. Like they're saying that there is no, I'm not sure, like to classify the heavens as another existence, or as Milton would say, pandemonium, or was it? Or fuck, I'm just forgetting all these terms, man. I'm sorry. I mean, I don't prepare well. A lot of this off of my head. Limbo. Yes, limbo. Or which is where people go. People aren't being judged yet. So when somebody's died and their spirits goes into the ethereal, they're actually in a place like purgatory or you know, limbo or pandemonium or something like that, where they you know, I might be conflating limbo and pandemonium. I apologize about that. But our souls that's where we go to rest until the Most High and His Son, the Mashiach, come back and levy their judgment on our souls. But the elite are purposely denying that in us, because they want us to, number one, see them as gods and then follow their moral compass, which again, like I always like to say, they don't have a moral compass. Their moral compass is broken, and it's all over the fucking place. It's not north, south, east, west. It's in an infinite number of directions, and they guide us in whatever direction they want based upon their own selfish needs and gains. Like for us to even be following these people is absolutely ridiculous, shameful, you know. And we end up we're following them like we should be following the Most High's word. And I you know, that's something I've been grappling with my whole life. But like in the last few years, I started understanding, like, wow, the reason why the world is descending in this way is because we've been following like Aristotle and a lot of the Greeks, who I think are something other than what Western society has said they are. Anyway, I just want to enlighten, hopefully that enlightens people a little bit to how I'm thinking about the elites and how they're operating in society. They're not operating with care in our minds, especially what's going on in the world today. We're acting like they actually give a fuck about us. And they don't give two shits about us. They only care about exploiting us and exploiting every thought, every will in our being. And that's how I know that they know there's more to the world than, you know, just us, like, you know, living by, you know, our perceptions and how our senses perceive the world. They understand that there's something in humanity that is just something in our spirit and who we are that is greater than the five senses, and that affects us greater than the five senses. They don't even know about the brain. Like something I like to think of is like motherly intuition, or like that gut feeling, you know. Those are things that I think can't even be quantified. And maybe they're based upon like the environment around, but like I think like just witnessing motherly intuition, I know there's something spiritual to the connection between a mother and a child and a father and a child that understands, and that's similarly, those similar things is how the Most High acts on us, because we are His children. So we actually, we have this, just like the child has a natural connection to his mother and father, we have a natural connection to the Most High, that these so-called elite, who are just demons, operating, under just the most under degradation, and following the left-hand path, which that's another video for another day. That's coming up soon. Is how they're exactly operating to obfuscate and to actually the scriptures and the morality that is the basis for our Western civilization. But I want to leave this. I want to leave with one more quote or something that should enlighten us more to who these fucking elites are. And it's from Shakespeare. And it's from, did I fuck up? Oh yeah, it's from Pericles, Prince of Tyre. And that's one thing I want to get into. There's a lot of history. Tyre from ancient Canaan, Babylon, which they called the Phoenicians, etc., etc. I think this play enlightens to a lot of different history, talking about Tarsus, how Pericles was a great mariner, just like the Phoenicians were. And he goes to Tarsus, which was Turkey, which is modern day Turkey, and he's battling the Antiochus. Antiochus. He was the king of the the first Antiochus the first, who's king of the Syrian Empire. I don't know. It's a whole bunch of shit. But I was just doing this research. But this is a fantastic quote, or fantastic lines from Pericles, because he. King what's his name? Antiochus. He wanted Pericles to marry his daughter, but Antiochus knew, because a lot of princes knew around that time, Antiochus was having trouble marrying off his daughter, because they knew that they were in an incestuous relationship. So Antiochus was like, "Hey man, I ain't messing with you. You just fucking your daughter." And Pericles leaves the kingdom, but Antiochus wants to keep his incestuous relationship with his daughter a secret. So he puts out pretty much a death a hit out on. Pretty much. And Antiochus has a price on his head, but it's not really a price. He just sends one of his minions to go try to kill Pericles. But this is Pericles talking to his the oldest, the wise man in the kingdom. They always have some older gentleman in a lot of Shakespeare's plays who, is the wise person who enlightens the protagonist into some certain mindset. But this is Pericles responding to Helicanus about how he should react to Antiochus's want to kill him, because Antiochus wants to keep his incestuous relationship a secret, even though it's an open secret. Just like a lot of degeneracy going on in this society today. Open secrets. Ghislaine Maxwell, where's that black book at? Open it up! But anyway, this is the line. These are the lines from Pericles. Pericles, thou speakest like a physician, Helicanus, that ministers a potion unto me, that thou wouldst tremble to receive thyself. Attend me then. I went to Antioch, where, as thou knowest, against the face of death, I sought the purchase of a glorious beauty, from whence an issue I might propagate. As children are heaven's siblings to parents, objects, are arms to princes, and bring joys to subjects. Her face was to mine eye beyond all wonder. The rest, hearken thine ear, as black as incest, which by my knowledge found the sinful father, seemed not to strike but smooth, but thou knowest this. 'Tis time to fear when tyrants seem to kiss. So when tyrants seem to want to care about you, it's time to start fearing. Why are we listening to these people? There's obviously something they're trying to get from us, and there's obviously some manipulation that's going on. Which fear so grew in me, I hither fled, under the covering of careful night, who seemed my good protector, and being here, bethought me what was past, what might succeed. I knew him Tyrannus, tyrannous. And tyrants' fears decrease not, but grow faster than the years. And should he doubt, as doubt no doubt he doth, that I should open to the listening air how many worthy princes' blood were shed to keep his bed of blackness unlaid ope. To lot that doubt he'll fill this land with arms, and make pretense of wrong that I have done him, when all for mine, if I may call offense, must feel war's blow, who spares not innocence, which love to all, the which thyself art one, who now reproved me for it. So he was trying to save his kingdom by, he's going to, have a self-inflicted exile because he doesn't want his kingdom to come under the forces of the Syrian Empire, which eventually would conquer Tyre after the Babylonians conquered Tyre. I mean, is that the right? Yeah, I believe that's right. And then after that, that empire was taken over by Rome. But I think what they considered Antioch and the Syrian Empire, there was the Eastern Greece Empire, the Hellenistic Greece Empire. But I think that's right. I don't know. I'll outline it because I'm gonna write an essay too regarding the elites. But I just wanted to say, like, I just was thinking about how the elites are operating today, and they're not operating on any moral compass. So for them to actually pretend that they, it's so pretentious that they're acting like they give a fuck about us when they can't even pay living wage. That's why they're billionaires. They can't give proper health insurance. They're not lobbying for universal health care or cheaper universities, etc., when most of the Western Europe and all these places have free health care and higher education. And those countries are known to having the amount of billionaires, but America has always been meant to be raped, to be exploited under the guise of, and I'm not an anti-capitalist, I just think that, like a lot of people are outlining, that crony capitalism is right to exploit the people, and that's pretty much all that's been happening. Even if people like to separate the slave system from capitalism, but that slavery is the ultimate capitalism. And like I've outlined in another video, slave wages is what the elite want to get as close to as possible so they can maximize their profits. But that's all over the place. Fuck the elite. They can eat a dick. They're not elite. They're so-called elite. They're spiritually dead. They will get their comeuppance in this lifetime as well as the next. But anyway, that's my thought of the day.